Today's handout is posted. So now we're going to go into macro view. What's Silicon Valley doing overall in the macro world? So this is where I combine everything. Here we go, look at sale price, and this is the macro area, so it's not representative of any particular area, but what the entire marketplace is doing. And you can see there's a lot of fluctuation, but basically prices are probably stable to going uphill while we've been in the pandemic. Here is overbidding, again for the same metric of all the macro area. You can see the frequency of overbidding bottomed out 2 weeks ago. We increased a little bit last week, and now we had a significant increase. And these, again, you need closings to get sale price. Half of the offers that closed this last week were before April 30th, and half were after. And the reason that's somewhat significant is May 1st, I believe, is the day we were able to show properties. So this is still during a period of time when we mostly could not show any properties other than vacant properties. This graph is new. For those that have been following me for a while will understand it, but this cluster of data points up here, when you look at it, are all the old datas. And again, this is closed because I'm looking at the sale price, the magnitude of overbidding. And basically, the concept here, as you go up and to the right, the market is improving. And so, you know, if we started here and went up here, the market would be constantly improving. But no, that's not what happened. If you look at this group of lines right here, that's the stuff that happened basically up until April the 4th. And why April 4th, you know, who knows? But if you think about it, the people that were closing the week of April the 4th were very close to closing. And they said, let's just close. So they were basically pre-pandemic, pre-shelter-in-place data points. And they're all clustered together along here. And then if you look, the 4th, the 11th, and April 25th have basically slid downhill a little bit, but they're sort of in the midpoint. And the reason for that is half were offers that were accepted pre-shelter in place, half were after. Then you come down to the more recent weeks. And, you know, if you look at this, the red line is the current data point, current week. But what we've done is we've actually gone downhill. So the April 25th is this line. Then you went to May 2nd, which is this line, which was the absolute worst. Then on May 9th, we've improved a little bit, and then the red line is the current line, and we've improved some more. So the concept here is, yes, the market is quite a bit, not nearly as bad, as good as it was up here pre-shelter in place. We coasted down through it, and now we're turning around and coming back uphill. But I also want to just do a little thing to point out the obvious. If you come over here in this red line, it says basically somewhere around 62% of sellers in this macro area got their asking price or more. And I think if you went to most areas of the country and most marketplace to say that close to 2/3 or 60% of your sellers are getting their asking price or more, you really can't be complaining about the marketplace. So we peaked back here shortly after shelter in place, as the vertical line lines up with shelter in place. So you can pretty much count 1, 2, basically 3 weeks after shelter in place were the worst 3 weeks. And that's when we weren't supposed to be showing any properties whatsoever. 3 weeks, we started showing vacant houses and we started improving. And then basically about here, we could start showing occupied properties and we started improving. And I believe we will start improving even more once there's, in my opinion, clarity on the steps need to be taken to show properties. So the inventory is basically right at normals. And we had an increase in inventory because the sellers weren't going on vacation. And so they put their house on the market plus the pent-up demand. But if it was pent-up demand, you'd expect this week to have also been high, which is why the holidays. Now we're talking about new listings just for last week. And the difference there is the last slide was total inventory regardless of when it came on the market. This is just what's happened in last week. So a week ago, you can see we were above the norm. And again, that's because of the holiday. Sellers normally hold off. They didn't hold off as much this year. So we actually had more than 100% of new listings last week. This week, we're down a little bit less. And I think we're going to be a little bit less, at least until it becomes more convenient to show properties. But, you know, you're darn close to 100%. This is offers accepted. Again, the spike last week was up quite a bit, but this week went up too. And the reason for that is now you had more inventory on the market. The buyers came out and were able to buy that property. And if you look, it looks, okay, the blue lines here is the raw data, here's the gold, so we're still below the gold, which is why the red line is below the red horizontal. I need to get my data done a little earlier. So anyway, we're again we're ramping up, and the number of offers has been a straight up after, the 3 weeks. So 3 weeks in shelter in place, buyers came back, we're getting closer and closer to normal. We're still not at normal. We're somewhere just below 80%. For what we're going through, that's pretty darn good in my opinion. Closings, they lag behind because of the duration of escrow, which is right now around 30, 31 days. You can see we bottomed out probably 2 weeks ago, and even the number of escrows now have been climbing the last 2 weeks. They should come up to about 80% of normal, so I'd expect them to come up to about this level on the blue line and the red line, but it would still be below the gold line, if that makes any sense. Cancellations. I think this is basically a moot point at this time. You clearly had a huge spike right as shelter in place was announced. You're basically bouncing on both sides of normal depending on which week you're talking about. So cancellations are normal, inventory is normal. I think anyone that's on the market now isn't going to cancel their listing other than for other reasons unrelated to the pandemic. Expired listings last week. Here's your raw data. Again, it's essentially it isn't going below the 5-year median, so it is above. So we have a few more listings that are expired, and that would make some sense. The market's a little bit slower. Sellers are getting to the end of their listing period. They're saying, hey, we gave it a try. Let's just take it off the market and let's see what happens. Now, withdrawn listings is the last individual component, but you can see here in before shelter in place, we were only having very few withdrawn listings, but you have to also remember this was at the early part of the year when there's very little inventory. Inventory is double, triple what it was at the beginning part of the year, so the fact that withdrawn listings is higher is not as shocking. I don't think this is particularly out of line, and especially now that we're getting past shelter in place, anybody that was going to give up on the market has already given up on the marketplace. Okay, now we get to change gears a little bit. We're going to look at the 13 micro markets, single family homes in San Mateo and Santa Clara County. This is my heat maps. So here is looking at overbidding, and you can see this is going back now to May 2nd. So we're back 4 weeks. You can see we were mostly red. The coast was in a balanced marketplace, and we had a few cool spots, more in San Mateo County in the high expensive areas. Now you go forward to May 9th. And you can see the gray expanded, so we got even more balanced marketplace. And then a little bit of the gray went to red, so we've improved a little bit. Now that's on the 16th. Now we go to the 23rd. The red, it's changed. I would say the volume geographically is about the same. But, so we were skating around the bottom. I think the 23rd was slightly better than the 16th. And now you go to the 30th, and there's essentially no change. So the big changes were Saratoga, Los Gatos, coastal areas here. They went from the balanced marketplace to the red hot marketplace. And I should point it out, there's no change here between the 23rd and the 30th except for the date. The graphs were exactly the same. So the improvement now is going to be hard to improve because the only thing that's going to improve is 4, 9, and 11. These are the affordable areas in Santa Clara County. And I think that's going to be hard to do because that's the more affordable areas where they're harder picked. We're also having the same more affordable areas like Redwood City in San Mateo County, where we probably will see continued improvement is in the expensive areas in San Mateo County and the expensive areas in Santa Clara County. So now we're going to start off with today's data just so you can see where we are. We're basically in a seller's marketplace, all the red stuff, or a balanced marketplace, the gray stuff. There is no blue left in the expensive areas of San Mateo County. Let's look at where we were 5 weeks ago. All gray plus some blue here on the San Mateo, Santa Clara County border. A little tiny area of not tiny area, all of Foster City, which is a tiny little area, was still in a hot marketplace. And that's just statistical fluctuation. They have so few data points, number of homes at any given time. It's really irrelevant. Then we jump back. So here was where we were at the beginning of May. So quite a bit of blue here along the San Mateo, Santa Clara County border. A lot of gray in a lot of the areas, but still some red. Here's the 9th, more gray. Here's the 16th. The gray changed, a little bit more red, definitely more red on the 23rd. And now the blues disappeared and became gray. I don't think, oh yeah, this area, little pocket up here, Foster City went from a balanced marketplace back to a red marketplace. So basically the cold areas, the buyer areas went away. Now we're finally going to look at all 22 micro market areas. I've highlighted the graph I'm going to talk about so you can see the titles highlighted here, and that's so you can see it. This looks at the Santa Clara County in red, San Mateo County sort of in the gray, and condo townhouses in both. That way you can see what's happening in each of the different micro market areas real quickly. And if you come back here to shelter in place, which was missing, but it was basically on the 16th, so right here, a few days of balance, and that's because, you know, with a 5-week sample set, it takes a couple weeks for it to start impacting the data. Then a rapid ramp up, and remember, going up of days of unsold inventory is a bad thing. It's slowing down in the marketplace. But now basically starting here at the end of April, and even if you want to call it May 1st, when we could start showing vacant properties, actually May 4th was occupied properties. About April 15th would have been vacant properties. So vacant properties would have been back here, and the market continued to deteriorate. With the ability to show all houses, the market has improved dramatically since. Here is Santa Clara County individual micro market areas, San Mateo County, condo townhouses, and I flipped through those quickly so that you could go back and look at them on the screen saves. Here is inventory. Here we're going to talk about it with all the micro market areas, and we can do that because the biggest area is Santa Clara County, followed by San Mateo County, followed by Santa Clara County townhouses. They separate, so they're clearly easy to see. And then you can also look down here and you can see all the different micro market areas. So basically, you were coming up on your inventory, shelter in place announced, stopped down, started coming back up. And basically, all the areas are now above their pre-shelter in place levels. But I would maintain that, and we're basically right at about 100% of the normal inventory. So this is about the level we would expect. So we had a dip down and we're back up to the level of inventories. The big difference is the volume of transactions that are being initiated with offers accepted is down. So again, I'm just stepping through these so you can look at them. Now we're going on to offers accepted. Same concept here. I'm going to discuss this slide because Santa Clara County stands out. You can see that shelter in place was announced. The number of sales over a 5-week period of time decreased. We sort of hit a plateau at the bottom, and then we started coming up. With a 5-week lag, there is a lag, you know, because you can maybe argue that the improvement happened somewhere around here, right about there, and then maybe a sharper improvement somewhere around here. And that's, you know, with the increments of being able to show vacant houses, now the increment of being able to show all houses showed up. But I also want to see what's happening right now today, which is why we started off with the slides we did. And if you look at three weeks data, you can see we're going up, and 1 week's even higher. And you can see that trend is for most of the micro market areas down here. So that speaks positively of what I should be reporting next week. I'd expect the number of sales over the past 5 weeks to continue to go up. I'll step through quickly. Here's the county data, Santa Clara County, San Mateo County data, condo townhouse data, and now we're moving on to closed data. And all the micro market areas, but the counties stand out because they're the largest areas. So the red line is Santa Clara County, and San Mateo County is the gray line, and the yellow line is condo townhouses. And it is noteworthy that the San Mateo County is clearly leveled off and has gone up a little bit already. Santa Clara County is basically leveled off, but the condo townhouse market is still going down. So it seems like potentially people that are buying condo townhouses that typically aren't impacted as much by holidays, and that's without trying to stereotype, just because of the type of homes they tend to be smaller, tend not to have as large family sets, which means they tend to have smaller families. So these people, this group of people is more likely to be postponing their decision to get back in the marketplace based on the data. and the people that have families and the emotional needs and the family pressures, expanding of a family and things of that nature, have the pressure, and they're returning a little bit sooner, so the data and the number of closed transactions going up. Nothing noteworthy. Again, the last 2 data points is horizontal. It's hard to see the Santa Clara red line here and then down here. San Mateo's a little easier because they're offset. I was optimistic on the last data point. This one's clearly down. It was a 4-week, 4-day recording week. So now, because Monday was the holiday, so basically you had fewer transactions that got to be recorded, potentially just because there was one less recording date. So this last week data for closing is less significant when you have a holiday week. Stepping through the different areas, the counties, the Santa Clara County micromarket areas, San Mateo County micromarket areas, moving on to frequency of overbidding and discussing it at the county level. Here it's a little more optimistic, and I'll start with condos. Look at the big jump up for the 1 week data point. So the frequency of overbidding is up for condos. So it seems like the buyers woke up and said, hey, there's competition now, we have to start overbidding again. But again, in general, the trend is slowly down. It's not down dramatically. Santa Clara County went up like the condos down, in Santa Clara. San Mateo County is still trending downwards. Again, this is pretty old data because you have 5 weeks to gather the data, 30 days to get the data. So this is not reflective of being able to show occupied properties. Stepping through Santa Clara County data, San Mateo County data, condo townhouse data, onto magnitude of overbidding. And I am missing the county data. The red line is Santa Clara County, so you can pick that one up. And that's probably the only one we'll be able to pick up easily, because San Mateo County is this darker beige and it doesn't highlight when I'm in PowerPoint. You know, I'd expect it to be above Santa Clara. So it's probably this gray line right here coming through, but it's really hard to do. We can look at this, which shows you overbidding in Santa Clara County. You can, and again, this requires closed transactions. I would say the general trend was up a little bit and level after shelter in place, but this was closing transactions that were pre-shelter in place negotiations. Then we were coming constantly down because this was basically offers that were negotiated with shelter in place in effect prior to being able to show properties. San Mateo County, harder to see trends here. There's fewer sample size. If I was to look at it somewhat objectively, I would be inclined to say it's fairly level, maybe slightly down. There's some exceptions where this green area, which is Redwood City, went up for a while and now it's coming down. Condo townhouse data. And now we're on to sale price data. And I believe I have it. Yep. And so here's the county data. The red, Santa Clara County, San Mateo, obviously the more expensive county, and then condo townhouse for Santa Clara County. Again, really nothing happening in prices. You know, we would have expected prices to be going up at this time of the year. The fact that they're level is a little bit of a detriment, but you know, not the end of the world. Here is Santa Clara County, San Mateo County, condo townhouses, median sold price for all 22. That's again the same story. San Mateo County looks like they overshot. You know, if you look at it a little bit, they were down here at 1.4 million beginning part of the year. They got up to 1.6. They got up to 1.8 at times, and now they're back down to 1.4. If you compare that to Santa Clara, they were at 1.2 and went up to 1.4. You know, if I was to read the tea leaves, I'm not sure I believe that this is that much shelter in place. To me, this is almost more along the lines of the sellers were lucky at the sometime mid-February, right around Valentine's Day, and got a little bit more than the market was willing to sustain long-term, and as a result of that, they come back. You know, that's why I try to look at what the market's telling me versus trying to interpret what the market's doing, because I don't know why the market's doing what it's doing. Knowing what it's doing, though, is important. Santa Clara County data, San Mateo County data, condo townhouse data. Now we're moving on to 90 percentile data, and I'll be discussing it on the county data. The red line is Santa Clara County. You can see it's pretty flat. So this is what the high end of the market's doing. There was a little blip right around here with shelter in place. San Mateo County had a little blip, but maybe delayed by a couple of weeks compared to Santa Clara County. But again, the story here is prices are basically flat. If I came down and looked at condo townhouses, I'd actually say they're going up. And that doesn't surprise me because there's less social pressure on people buying townhouses and condos from the way I read the data. And so the prices tend not to spike as drastically as single family homes do in the first quarter, and they tend to go up more consistently. And that's basically what you're seeing here. Just a slow plot going up the whole time, where if you look at Santa Clara County, it went up and came back down a little bit. And, you know, you could even argue maybe instead of flat, it's going down a little bit. San Mateo County was floating around, shot up, came down, potentially even shooting back up again, especially with the last 3-week data point and the 1-week data point. Santa Clara County, San Mateo County, condo townhouse, escrows. Here's the county data. There's really not much here. This is just what's the duration of the typical escrow. You can see San Mateo County went from 25 days to 30 days, basically a 20% slowdown. That's where you get a 20% increase in the inventory if you're looking at pending prices instead of offer date-based pricing. Santa Clara County went from 27 days to 30 days, and condo townhouses went to 30, improved down to 28, back up to 30. So again, it's taking a little bit longer, but not a huge amount of time. Here is the micro market data for Santa Clara County, Santa Mateo County, condo townhouse data. Then we're going to go to days on the market data. This is normally somewhat useful data because the MLS froze the days on market while we were in the pandemic. This is all at zero, which is basically saying half the homes that are selling now were listed while shelter in place was on the marketplace, which is why they have 0 days on the marketplace. Santa Clara County data, San Mateo County data, condo townhouse data. Here is the data for today's date, which is why it says May 30th. So this is using data from starting last night at midnight, going back 5 weeks, and you can pick any different micro market area you want. Here's Santa Clara County single family home. This is all single family home. And so DUI, you can come down here and you can see we're at, it looks like 38 or 39 days of unsold inventory, which is basically the very top, but still within a seller's marketplace. South County is at 37. That is solidly a seller's marketplace. So you can just pick whatever data point you want. Here's the magnitude of overbidding, the average overbidding, the frequency of overbidding is right here, the 61%. Here are your sale prices, 90 percentile, median percentile. And this is San Mateo County data, single family, and this is data for both counties in condo townhouse. This is a surprise. I added this on. It's very, very tentative. It is inaccurate. This is data for the past 35 days, sort of looking at what data for May will look like. And some of the takeaways are your median days on market are artificially low because of the freezing of days on market. The size of the home is a little bit bigger at 2,100 square feet. So that would tend to suggest maybe the smaller homes are selling a little more quickly and more easily. You can look at the number of transactions, offers accepted. We're approaching 900 transactions. This number will probably go up because we'll get less away from shelter in place. And if it hits 1,000 or 1,100, it's not going to be out of line with these past years going back over time. The overbidding ratio is at about 101% versus 102 and 108. So you can see how we compare to past years. It's going to be 2 more weeks before we get this real data on it, and I'll do the same thing next week. Here's some of the key dates. And with that, I'm open for questions for the last 6 minutes. Any questions from my listening audience? Someone sent me a chat. Someone looked at South County data, and they're saying that there's 207 offers accepted and 104 available inventory. And if we just go back up here to the raw data, you can see that it was, I think that number says 37. So that means that you're going to have roughly the same number of properties on the market that are been accepted in the last 35 days, but their duration of escrow, I think, is a little bit longer. It looks like their average is 32 days, so those numbers make sense. My data shows 141 properties in escrow. I'm showing 135, so I'm more balanced than the person that sent me the chat. I suspect the person that sent me the chat's looking at pending transactions. And just to, again, reiterate, I do not believe looking at pending transactions is a valid point, because if you get a transaction that's in there for 90 days, it carries the weight of 3 30-day transactions. Where if you look at offers that were accepted, so use sales date and then look at, whatever your start date, end date is, go back a set number of period of time, 1 week, which I think is way too short when you're looking at an area like South County. I picked 5 weeks, so I went back 5 weeks and I found 135 properties. So now if you look at the ratio between 141 to 135, it's just a little over 1. And if I go back 35 days, my days of unsold inventory should be a little over 35, and that's exactly what it is. So my math is correct, and the person doing the analysis is correct, but I think that's the fallacy of the calculation that this industry is adapted to. It's sort of like dollars per square foot is the gold standard in this industry, which makes no sense to me, because you're not taking into consideration the land value. The land value is the biggest bulk of all the properties here. In many areas, the land value is probably 3/4 of the value of the house. And then to say that my 6,000 square foot lot is worth less because it's got a smaller house on it is crazy. So you have to determine the land value, and then you can look at dollar per square foot. And again, you have to have a very large sample size and consistent sample size, because you have so many variables like views and quality of upgrades and things of that nature. So just a little diversion. Anyone else come up with a question? Hey, noticing another chat. So the 135 offers, and these dates look right. Yes. So in South County, there would have been 135. Yeah, 135 offers in South County, and there's 141 transactions. And even on the closings here, these are closings. So there would be 62 closings in South County in the past 35 days. And if you want to look at countywide, you currently have 1,031 properties for sale. In the last 5 weeks, we've sold 916. That's about 10% over 35. You come over here, and about 10% over 35 would be about 38.5, and this is showing up at 39. So, again, the math works out. Just because I happen to notice this, and this used to be an argument I'd have with a guy that was doing statistics for a while. Notice that the median sale price, or median asking price of what's on the market in Santa Clara County is this $1.6 million. And yet the median price of what sold is $1.3 million, and what closed is $1.3 million. And he would argue that this means that the people that are closing are taking a $300,000 price reduction. No, what it means is that the people that are selling the $2 million houses and the $3 million and the $5 million houses are taking longer to sell. So they were representing a disproportionate amount of the properties on the market, which pulls up the median list price of what's on the market. It has nothing to do with what's sold. So this is a completely different data set than the inventory or the pendings, and you can't make any analysis between the two. The best you can do is say about 30 days after it goes here, it should show up down here, because it takes about 30 days to go from an offer accepted to a closing. See everybody next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.